Okay, so last week or the week before, I don't know, time kind of blends together in like a singularity for me at times. Anyways, very recently, I did a series of videos where I talked about my top 10 favorite JRPG franchises, and I really very much enjoyed making those videos. It was definitely not one video. Just talking about the Xeno series was an hour in and to itself. But it made me also want to do something similar for anime. It was like, all right, I want to make a list of my top 10 favorite anime, but I know there's going to be a lot of shows that I love and really want to talk about that aren't going to make the cut. So I want to talk about some of those too. And as I was kind of going through a mental list, I was like, all right, what are some shows that I've watched that I really like? Let me check a lot of the merchandise that I have. Let me look at some of my lists from years past of shows that I watch, etc., etc. I looked at my anime list and went down like 600 shows, like to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I ended up with a list of like 60 shows. And that was way too much. That was way, way, way too much. So what I ended up doing was I just kind of sat down and said, okay, what are the shows that are absolutely positively on the list I need to talk about? And I ended up with 9. So what I decided to do was I'm gonna have 2 separate videos. One with the like had to be on here, no question. These are the top of the top. And then what are my alternates? Like if I don't have a number 10, what are the shows that to me can genuinely contend for that 10th spot? Then I redid the math in my head and realized there actually are 10 already on that first list. What do you know? But I still liked the idea of here's the alternates. Here's my, I guess to use in the way, let me try that again. To use it, the way I tend to do tier lists is if something is in S tier, means it is in contention for being my favorite of whatever category we're talking about. I'm still hoping to do that Worm one pretty soon, and I think I'm going to do one with Wukong, where I'm going to actually, like, instead of doing just a video talking about Wukong as a game, I just kind of want to do a tier list and talking about the bosses, and we'll probably talk about the game as we go there. But anyways, sorry, a little bit of a tangent. It's one of my videos. We're getting a tangent out early. Essentially, these alternates, these are genuine S tier shows for me for one reason or another. And then we'll get into the list proper. So technically, these are like number 23 through 11. But I'm having them on my list as like, this is 13 through 1 in terms of the alternates. However, a couple other housekeeping things I have to talk about. Number 1, it's not 23 shows. Here on the alternates, I do have a tie, or I'm like, I love these 2 shows about evenly, and they kind of hit the same, like, I don't know if I necessarily want to say niche, but they hit the same spot, and in my top 10 as well, I also have a tie, so technically that's more of a top 11, but it's my list. It makes sense for me to have it as I do, but I wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way. The second bit of housekeeping I want to get out of the way is why I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt in December, where it's like 30 degrees outside. Honestly, it's comfortable. It does not feel like it's 30 degrees inside. I could wear this. Why not? And 2, I wanted to pick a shirt that was actually relevant. And surprisingly, for the top entry on the alternate list, a Hawaiian shirt is kind of fitting. If you know, you know. We'll get to there, hopefully, in this video. Hopefully, the part 1 video to the list doesn't have to be 2 separate videos, but with how much I talk, there's a non-zero chance. It's already been 4.5 minutes. I haven't even talked about anything. So, with all that out of the way, all the housekeeping, all the introduction, let's start the alternates, 13 through 11, with number 13, Fruits Basket. Oh, before I say anything else, sorry, this is actually really important. Full spoilers for anything on the list. I'm kind of going to do what I did with the JRPG series, and timestamp everything, full spoilers. So if there's a show that you don't want to hear me talk about because you don't want it spoiled, feel free to skip it. The list is going to be in the description. Okay, cool. Fruba. So The reason for... Sorry, I do need to get my hair cut to figure out what I'm going to do with it. It's so distracting. Anyways, boy, the reason Fruits Basket is on this list is honestly for one simple reason. It's because I watched it with my sister. There's a lot of other shows I've watched with my sister. We watched Inuyasha together. We watched Ouran High School Host Club together. We watched Full Moon together. And by the way, I feel like that's a show most people have never seen or heard of. It's really fucking depressing. But if you've never listened to Eternal Snow, which is one of the ending themes, please do. Eternal Snow is phenomenal. But the reason Fruits Basket is on the list instead of those others, or it's not a collection of the shows I watched with my sister... Number one, we've watched it together multiple times. We watched it a long time ago. I want to say 06, 07. And then a few years ago, it was during a Christmas or a summer break from law school. I was like, you know what? I want to have a copy of Fruits Basket. You want to watch it again? So we watched it, and I realized just how much of the show I had remembered, even though it had been a decade. And not just I remember I remember the basic premise that there's a family that's cursed by the Chinese zodiac. If you get hugged by a member of the opposite sex that's not part of the zodiac, you turn into the animal, and it's super weird and embarrassing. And not just that, and I remembered a lot of the individual bits, like Momiji's backstory, Hattori's backstory. There was just a lot of lines of dialogue and just these little scenes and little moments. So this stuck with me a lot more than I thought it had. And it's kind of made me appreciate the show that much more. In terms of the quality of the show itself, I really do like it. It is not just I watched it with my sister. It's I genuinely enjoy it. The familial connection bumps it up, though. What I love about Fruits Basket is how inconsistent the tone is, but for me, that's a good thing. You can have moments that are just super goofy. You've got Shigure just joking about how happy he is to have high school girls coming over to his house. And then you'll have Hattori's backstory, which is the saddest thing I've ever seen. And then you've got Momiji's backstory. It's oh yeah, he's the rabbit. He's a cute little dude who's always super chippy and happy. And then not chippy, that's he's got a chip on his shoulder. Chirpy, I guess. And then it's oh yeah, when he was born as the rabbit, and his mother thought he was disgusting and an abomination and wanted nothing to do with him, and had her memories wiped of ever having a son. And his father told him, I will love you enough for 2 parents. And I am so, so sorry about this. And that's just kind of how Fruits Basket is. Oh, this is kind of sweet. This is kind of funny. And then the most depressing shit you've ever seen in your life. Even the title, the concept of the title comes from, I don't know if this is an actual game that's played or if it's just something unique to the show, with a children's game called Fruits Basket, where kids will kind of play around, and then every other kid is assigned a fruit. And when someone names one particular fruit, the kid goes in. Hey, apple, then the apple kid goes in. And then you yell strawberry, the strawberry kid goes in, etc., etc., etc. So Toru, when she was a kid and she would play the game, she was always assigned the rice ball because it was her thing. And because a rice ball is not a fruit, no one would call her in. And so she's someone who feels, even though she's always smiling and seems very happy, she is a very lonely person. And that bit at the end of that episode, because I don't remember specifically what happens in that episode, but I know it's an episode where she spends a lot of time with Yuki and Kyo, and you kind of flash back to her as a kid, and someone calls for rice ball, and it's just that moment of she's home. She's where she belongs. It's fucking beautiful. I didn't think I was going to start almost crying talking about Fruits Basket. Oh boy. There is some show, especially when we get into the actual top 10. I'm going to put a warning at some point. It's like, here's the chunk where I'm just going to start crying. So here we go. There is a remake. I haven't finished it. I was watching it as it came out, and there was one point where I just got super behind and never got around to finishing it. I would like to at some point. I don't know when. So this is mostly for, I guess, the original run, which didn't actually finish covering the story, which has always been my biggest problem with it, which is probably why it's not higher on the list. If I were to finish the remake, I don't know where Fruits Basket would end up. It might catapult its way into the actual 10. It might just go higher on the list. I don't know, but genuinely one of my favorites. The next one, number 12 on the list of alternates, Neon Genesis Evangelion. So the thing about Eva that I find really interesting is Eva used to be in my 10. And it's definitely tumbled over the years, and I'll be honest, I don't think that's really a fault of the 26 episodes. A lot of that for me is watching End of Evangelion, which I like, and there's parts of it I love, but I don't quite love as a whole. And with my most recent memory of Eva being the Rebuild movies, which I genuinely just really didn't enjoy, End of Evangelion, and especially the Rebuild movies, to me, feel like I am trying to fix the ending to my series because it didn't end the way it was supposed to. And granted, that's fair. From what I understand, End of Evangelion is like, this is more kind of what I was trying to go for, but I wasn't able to do it, and now I want to. I love the last 2 episodes of Evangelion. They might actually be my favorite 2 episodes of the entire show. I think the ending is kind of perfect. I'll talk about why in a second. So to me, every subsequent entry is I'm trying to fix something that was never broken, and now I'm kind of breaking it. What I love about the ending is it is very abrupt. Like, you don't actually see the action. That's kind of what End of Evangelion is. Like, you're actually seeing the Human Instrumentality Project going down. But I kind of like that, because even though Eva is a mech series and there are fights between the Evas and the Angels, that never really felt like what it was about. Although there is that one episode when Shinji and Asuka have to be completely in sync to, like, fight a monster, and I love that. Like, that is some goofy shit, and it's kind of awesome. But the fact that it's almost like, we're gonna cut through the bullshit and just get to the stuff that matters. Eva, I guess kind of like with Fruits Basket, like, talking about it, Shinji and Toru have some similarities between them. They're very different people, but they are still 2 very lonely individuals. The big difference is Toru is someone who is a lot more personable on the surface and is able to make those connections. And something they talk about with Shinji is the hedgehog dilemma of someone who is too afraid of being hurt or hurting someone with his spines to let anyone get close. Sorry, I just thought of Ultimate Fighter. I can't let you get close. I love that clip. Shinji Ikari is a fundamentally lonely person. And Shinji is why I love Eva the way I do. It is watching this person struggle. That sounds really fucked up out of context. Like, man, I love watching this bastard struggle. But I just find... I don't know, how do I want to say it? I just find him really interesting. And you've got the complicated relationship with his dad, and how it's terrible. And then it starts to improve. But even when it does, it feels less of like, okay, you know, they're starting to connect on something. His dad is showing that he really cares. And it's more like, hey, you're actually useful to me now. So let me treat you with dignity. And Shinji eating that up because it's something. And as soon as he's not useful, he doesn't matter anymore. I love the relationship with Asuka. I just love Asuka as a character. And I think to me what makes Asuka so interesting is it's not like I love a good old-fashioned unga bunga kind of character. I love that she is the exact same person as Shinji. Both of them are very broken. Both of them are incredibly lonely, and it's because of a fucked up relationship with their parent. Shinji, it's his dad. Asuka, it's her mother. But they handled it the exact opposite way. Shinji, like, secludes himself. Is like, I just don't want to get involved with people because I know they're going to hurt me. And Asuka is instead very outgoing, very assertive. Like, I'm going to hurt you first before you have a chance to hurt me. I think their dynamic is fantastic. I remember, like, years ago reading some kind of article, and it was like shows ruined by their main characters, and it was something like, Asuka should have been the main character. Asuka's such a better character. Shinji's such a whiny little bitch. I hate this. And just thinking, I don't want to be that asshole and say like, oh, you didn't understand what you were watching. I was like, okay, I genuinely don't think you understood what Eva was all about. I don't really think I have a whole lot to say about Rei. I feel like if I rewatched Eva recently, which clearly I haven't, I'd probably have more to say, but there is one scene I want to shout out, and it is the elevator scene. I've heard some people say that like they really don't like it. It's just way too long. It's kind of silly. The fact that the rebuild movies like shorten it makes it a lot better. I hard disagree. I love how long that shot is of Asuka and Rei just saying nothing, and you just feel the tension. You can feel Rei just, I feel like I should say something, but I don't know what to say, and it might just make it worse. And you can feel Asuka just, I hate you. I don't want to look at you. You are the, of every fucking, it's that line from Casablanca, of all the gin joints in all the world, why'd you have to walk into mine? That's kind of how she feels when she walks into that elevator. I love it. And the fact that the ending of the series is the Human Instrumentality Project. And it is everyone being connected. So this fundamentally broken and lonely boy can finally connect and finally bond with other people. I like it a lot. I think it's very fitting. And yes, the congratulations. Because with fucking Ben, it cracks me up every time. Like, it's kind of goofy, and it's funny, and it's weird. But in context, it's the moment where Shinji finally is able to receive love and love himself. And it's everyone that he knows congratulating him for like reaching self-actualization, and it's kind of beautiful. Also, last year when a good friend of mine got married, that's my friend Billy. I'm gonna shout him out by name because in a couple series I have a Billy story I need to tell. But when Billy got married, there was a point where we all like got in a circle around him and we were just congratulations. And it was great. I do really love Eva. Like, kind of like with Fruits Basket in the remake, if I re-watched it and was like, all right, I'm not going to think about End of Evangelion, I'm not going to think about Rebuild, just the 26 or 24, just the original run, it might end up kind of going higher on the list, we could see, but I feel like, for now, this feels about right. So, number 11 on the list of alternates, Kino's Journey. I will go ahead and say I'm including both the original anime and the remake, because I think both absolutely rule. So, Kino's Journey is a series about Kino and her magic talking bike Hermes just traveling the world and going to a different country. I believe her rule is I stay 3 days and 2 nights, and on the 3rd day is when I leave. And I just want to see the world. I want to see what's out there, take in the sights, and 3 days and 2 nights is the perfect amount. It's long enough to kind of get an idea of what a place is like, to get the vibe, but not so long that it really tempts me to stay. And both series have some interlapping episodes. Like, they have the Coliseum and the tournament, which introduces, I don't remember his name, but like the prince and his dog, which they handle differently, because I believe in the original anime it's a 2-parter, but the prince never shows up again. And then in the remake, it's a 1-part episode, but the prince and his dog become recurring characters. I think sometimes they interact with Kino, sometimes they just have their own shit that they're doing. And I thought that was really neat. I had no idea, like, there were other characters to follow. Both of them, I believe, do the episode with Kino's backstory, which I like a lot, and both of them do the volcano. The volcano is probably my favorite episode, because holy shit, that ending. And if I remember correctly, I think the remake did the volcano and the backstory back to back, but they did the volcano first. No, I think they did the volcano. No, did they do the volcano after? I don't remember. 'Cause I remember that's how season 1 ends. That's how this ends, is the volcano. And I think it's just such a striking fucking ending to the show, man. I can't remember a lot of the other specific episodes off the top of my head. I know there's the one where I think Kino's helping some travelers to get stuck, and it turns out they're like slavers or human traffickers, and then she murks them. I think the first episode of the remake is there's like a country where, I almost said a country for old men, a country where crime is legal, but it's a very lax and chill place. Kino's like, cool, crime's legal. I'm not going to kill anybody. I'm not like a psychopath. Or it might be specifically that murder is legal. And there's this one dude who starts like causing trouble and I think kills somebody. And then everyone in the town just forms a mob and kills him. It's like, oh, yeah, murder's legal. And because it's legal, no one does it, because they know you will get murked for it. I think that's a really interesting idea. And that's what I love about Kino's journey. It is just seeing all of these different places and just the interesting ideas and the interesting concepts. I genuinely think it's a really good time. I would highly recommend the original. I would highly recommend the remake. I would highly recommend watching them both. After that, I don't have any merch from this one, unfortunately, is Assassination Classroom, which I'm probably just going to be calling Ass Class, because it rolls off the tongue. It's easy to say, although it's so weird and silly to say it. So here's that Billy story. Billy was the one who told me about Ass Class. No, I can't say it. That sounds so bad out loud and out of context. Oh, it sounds like I'm talking about a porno. I don't like it. So Billy's the one that told me about Assassination Classroom. I think I kind of heard about it before, but he's the one that's like, no. Like, you have to watch it. This show made me cry. And that's what got my attention. I was like, really? I don't know too much about it, but okay. It's like, I don't know if I had ever, like, heard Billy talk about something that made him cry before. Not that he's, like, a super, like, tough macho dude. It's Billy. But I thought that was really interesting. And so, I don't remember if we watched the whole show together, or if it was just the ending. But I think we watched the whole thing together. And when we got to the ending, I believe it is the penultimate episode, during... I know I'm gonna cry. When it's Koro Sensei calling roll for the last time. And he calls every student, and everyone is assisting. And then Nagisa kills him. I was crying hard. Holy shit. So Billy is sitting behind me, and Billy stands up from his couch and goes, ah! And then picks up a pillow and throws it across the room. And beside the TV, and I went from like weeping to laughing so hard. It was incredible. And we talked about it later. It was like after we finished the show, or it was like the next day, and he goes, JJN, I want to explain what happened. I was crying. I was like not okay. And I just kind of had to get the emotions out of like, Billy, you didn't have to explain anything. I completely understood. We're good. It is probably my favorite memory with Billy. But the reason that scene is so impactful, it's not just because, okay, like, you're seeing a main character die. It's because, you know, everyone is in on it. And in a way that makes sense for the show. It's because of how much I loved Koro-sensei. And as the show progresses, you really feel his relationship with his students. I feel like it's one of those... I've always kind of loved that premise of, you know, here's the class of whatevers. Maybe it is a ragtag bunch of misfits. Maybe they are the kids that are the like misbehaviors and the delinquents. Maybe they're just regular ass people. And then they have a teacher, and the teacher really brings them together and hypes them up and really gets to know them on an individual level and help them with their problems, whether it's academic, whether it's emotional, whether it's like other kind of relationships, social issues, blah, 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 blah. I love that kind of shit. And I remember having a conversation with Billy. It's like, here's what I think Assassination Classroom is about. It is a metaphor for having that one teacher. That teacher that completely changed your life for whatever reason. But they saw something in you, or helped motivate you, or helped you through something, or overcome something. And even though you only knew them for that 1 year, that impact lasted the rest of your life. That is what this show is about. And I 1000% agree with that. I've had that teacher. His name was Mr. Culp. That was 4th grade. Where it was our... I don't remember if it was daily or weekly, but like journal writing time, which is when I started writing stories, which is something I still do. Like, that is what I love to do. That's where like my hobby, like my number one hobby, my really biggest passion comes from. I've never seen him again. It really was just 1 year. But the impact has lasted a lifetime. Another thing I really liked and related to is there's a scene between Koro-sensei and, what's his name? I think it was Karma. Might have been Karna with an N, but I think it was with an M. Which, by the way, anytime they're doing exams and it's like these giant D&D bosses that they're overcoming, like, I love the way they visualize exams. It's so fucking cool. Karma doesn't do as well in one of the exams. It was either like other kids had just like beat him, or he had fallen. I don't remember exactly how it was portrayed, but he's getting kind of down on himself. He's getting really angry. And what Koro-sensei essentially says to him is, the problem you have is you're very naturally gifted. You're very intelligent. You're very charismatic. You can read people and understand people very well. And because of that, you don't apply yourself. And the reason you don't apply yourself is because you're so afraid of failure. Because you're so gifted. You're so good at things you do. The idea of trying and applying yourself and not being good enough terrifies you. And that's why you don't apply yourself. And that's something I can very much relate to. There have been, I don't be like, there have been points in my life, it was law school, where it's not that I didn't try, but I know I didn't try as hard as I could have. And it's like, I got through fine. Like, it's not like, damn, my grades were incredible. My grades were fine. Like, I wasn't dog shit. But I know if I really wanted to. And that's kind of the problem, is there's like that thing where I'm like, I'm doing fine. I'm good. If I really wanted to, I could have tried harder and probably done a lot better. And you almost kind of pat yourself on the back for that. Like, yeah, if I tried harder, if I wanted it, but I didn't, it's cool. And I kind of hate that mentality. I hate that I had that mentality. Like, I loved my experience in law school, but there was always that part of me that just thought I should have tried harder. Not because it would have gotten me, like, better jobs or better this or blah, 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 but just because that was an opportunity. It was something I had worked for, and I didn't give it my all. I was content to coast. I don't like that. And that scene in Assassination Classroom, like, really stuck out to me. I think I watched the show after either the first time I took the bar or the second time I took the bar. Because I've taken the bar exam thrice. California, and then the UBE. The first time, I didn't really prepare for it. And that's on me. Like, there was a lot of just stuff going on, but I still could have powered through it, and I didn't. And I failed. The second time, I properly prepared, and I passed. And then with the UBE earlier this year, I properly prepared, and I passed. And that, like, I think about that scene whenever I think about taking the bar exam. Of that, if you apply yourself, and you genuinely do, there are very few things you can't achieve. Don't coast. Don't expect things to happen because you've got some kind of, like... I feel like I've kind of said what I wanted to say. I feel like I kind of made sense. If I didn't, I'm sorry. But it's... The ending, I think, is incredible. And there's this one scene that has really stuck out to me. And it's important. Honestly, I think talking through it, I should probably switch Assassination Classroom and the thing I have above it, which transition is Zombieland Saga. And maybe as I talk through it, I'm going to be like, no, Zombieland Saga needs to stay exactly where it is. So let me talk about Zombieland Saga. The first season is so funny. The premise. Okay, the first scene of our girl Sakura being like, I want to be an idol, and I'm going to have my audition, and I'm so excited. This is the day that I change my life. And then she gets hit by a car. And it is played completely for laughs. And I was cracking up at just the jarring tone shift. With the premise being this absolutely psychotic man has resurrected several notable figures from the history of the Saga province. I think it's the province of Japan. And Sakura is like, okay, I'm going to turn you into an idol group. And I am going to use your skills and your influence to make your idol personalities. And we are going to save, like, this region and, like, revitalize this region. And yeah. And so you've got, like, the group idol, the solo idol, and then you've got, like, the biker chick, the child actress, Tai. I love Tai so much. Just the actual brain dead zombie character. Oh, it's so funny. who am I missing? I think like we're missing the courtesan, and I think that's the whole squad. There might be one other person I'm forgetting, but I feel like that's everyone. And the show is like, okay, them as an idol group trying to, you know, build their audience, build a reputation, as well as just some of the hijinks they get into, while also trying to keep the fact that we are the living dead under wraps. And like I said, it's hilarious. There's also the Lily episode, where Lily is the child actress who died young. And so the way she died is Lily is biologically male, but is always identified as female. It's like, I will be referring to Lily as female. But Lily had a hair grow, I believe it was like on her cheek, and kind of realized, oh shit, I'm going to be going through puberty. And it's like, partly it's like, you know, my identity is going to be coming out, but also I'm going to be growing up, which means I can't be a child actress, I can't be cute forever. Which caused her to have a heart attack and die. Which is insane overreaction. It's pretty funny. There's another death scene that they talk about with, I don't remember her name. I want to say May, but I don't know if that's right. But she's one of the two, like, actual actresses. And the way she died was she was giving a performance in the rain. And I think, like, she, like, holds her microphone up. And then she gets struck by lightning. And she's telling this to the biker chick as, like, there's a thunderstorm going on. She's talking about why she's so terrified of thunderstorms. Like, this is how I died. And she tells the story. And then her friend is listening to this and kind of goes, dude, that's like the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, her death manages to both be incredibly badass, incredibly sad, and incredibly funny all at the same time, because the show is just that well made. But getting back to Lily, they have like a fan meet and greet. And one of the people to show up is her dad, who is still very vulnerable and struggling with the loss of his little girl. And seeing someone who looks exactly like her is not easy for him. I cried during that episode. I thought it was fucking beautiful, but just like, Show was great. Near the ends, where kind of Sakura has her arc where she's like, you know, everyone is actually special and I'm just kind of not anything. Because I believe she's told by the manager, it's like, oh yeah, like you lost your memories, but like you were actually a really good idol, like you got your shit together, blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, oh no, I'm actually like kind of useless and everyone is cool, I can't do anything, blah, 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 blah. It honestly really dragged the show down for me. It's like, I get why it's here. It's not that it's terrible. I'm just not loving this part. But the rest of the show, I think, is really, really, really good. So, the reason it's so high on the list, though, is because of the second season. Zombieland Saga Revenge, to me, just kind of said, we're going to take everything that made Zombieland Saga good, and we're gonna make it gooder. It's just as funny, if not funnier. Lily gets another episode that's, I don't think it made me cry, but it was also really, really good. I just kind of remember going, like, why are the Lily episodes just, like, phenomenal, like, kind of for no reason? Holy shit. Ty gets an episode, which is absolutely hysterical. I can't remember her name, but she's the courtesan. You finally get her backstory and her episodes, and they're really, really good. And I think the song at the end of the two-parter is, aside from the rap battle, I'm sorry, it's just like, yeah, this idol anime. So aside from the rap battle in the second episode, it's great. That's probably my favorite song in the show. Like, it's really catchy, and I absolutely loved it. Zombieland Saga Revenge to me, does what the first season tried to do, but didn't quite pull off with its emotional arc with Sakura. The plot of Revenge is we thought we were bigger than we were, and we had this big performance planned at like this special venue, and like 12 people showed up. And seeing just how empty it was fucking broke us. Like, our performance was terrible. Emotionally, we haven't quite recovered. We're not okay. We are going to have our revenge. We are going to get our groove back. We are going to perform again. We're at 0 right now. Let's go back to 100. And what I love about it is, number one, I mean, it's not to say there's not like emotional stuff that happens later, like cathartic stuff that happens later, like everything with the earthquake and like the group coming together, helping a lot of people. I think at that point, like the fact that they're zombies becomes public knowledge. We were like, well, we don't care because we care about y'all and y'all care about us. And I love shit like that. I don't remember if that's what made me cry, because there was a point in season 2 where like I cried really hard. I think it was during the final performance. But it's like we're starting with we're at our lowest point early and kind of getting it out of the way so we can build up. And it feels a lot more satisfying that way. Again, it still has all like just the goofy shit I expect from Zombieland Saga. But when you do get to that final performance, where all of their hard work, all of their goodwill, and that just sheer tenacity has finally paid off, it's so satisfying to watch. And I think that's why there's a part of me that's like, I think I can put it above Assassination Classroom. It's kind of like, it's basically that karma scene, but it's not just talking about it. It's not just saying like, hey, you know, like if you really apply yourself and you work hard, like you can do things because you're afraid of failure that you do end up failing. You're a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is, we failed. We lost. What do we do from here? Do we give up? Or do we just keep going? Do we get our revenge? And I love theming it as revenge because spite is a powerful emotion. Like, one of my favorite moments in Atlanta is, to be fair, I could probably make like a top 50 video of just all my favorite moments of Atlanta. I don't think I will, but I'm almost tempted to do it. Is when in season 4, when Ern is talking to his therapist and he talks about just how powerful of a motivator spite is, but then is also acknowledges it can also be a very empty feeling, which is what he feels by the end of the episode. And there is this combination of like, you know, spite and anger to get back to where we were, but also just the genuine love that they have for what they do, the genuine love they have for the people of Saga, and the genuine love they have for each other. Bahamut, what are you doing? Sorry, he's in his litter box and trying to figure out the dirt, but then he just started pawing at the wall, and I don't know why. You could paw. The other things I have to shout about the Zombieland Saga, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the promoter is so funny. It's like, as much as I love Koro Sensei for being like this phenomenal teacher and like role model and shit, I love how absolutely fucking insane the promoter in Zombieland Saga is at all times. Also, the last, I don't know, 10 seconds of Revenge where an alien spaceship just shows up made me laugh so hard. And I was so confused. I understand that a movie has been announced, and I'm like a few years ago, and like every like couple months or so, I'll just check like, is there an update on the movie? Because I really, really, really want to see it. I love Zombieland Saga. Talking through it maybe it should be under Assassination Classroom, but I think I can justify it enough to keep it up here. But these are 9 and 10 on the alternate list. They're pretty close. So the next one we've got, number 8 on our list of alternates, which I was telling Clay, he's like, this is a lot lower than I thought it was going to be, is Gintama. I've got a Gintoki. I got this Hijikata postcard actually yesterday from Jose. And I also have a Gintama wall scroll. I'd show it off, but it's just kind of completely hidden by the headboard of my bed. I didn't have room to put it anywhere else. It's kind of got Mike Wazowski'd. In some of my other videos, especially the ones in the previous house, you could clearly see, actually not really because of where it was, but I think there are some videos where it's shown off. Anyways, number 8 is Gintama. Here are the things I love about Gintama. Number 1, the show is just funny as fuck. There are just bits from Gintama that live in my head rent-free that I will talk about with Jose, because Jose has also seen Gintama, and both of us keep trying to get Clay to watch Gintama. Like, the entirety of the Feigned Illness arc, which is the last... I want to say it's the last, like, comedy arc, but the Slip arc things might be afterwards. But I thought the Slip arc was just kind of okay. So the Feigned Illness is, like, the last, like, true hoorah of Gintama comedy. And the whole plot is Kagura going, wait, don't my people have, like, a sickness or, like, a thing where if we're in sunlight for too long, we get really sick and tired? And that's why I'm always carrying a parasol. You know, our writers are really inconsistent about that. So, fuck it. I'm just gonna pretend that I'm dying. So my friends, like, feel bad about the fact that they treat me like shit. And as it goes on, the bit just keeps going too far, and the giant elaborate funeral by the end is so funny. There's the Hangover arc where Gintoki thinks he slept with, like, half the female cast and is trying to take accountability for it, and it's really good. There's the gender flip arc, which is really funny. I don't think there is anything funnier in Gintama than the character poll. The fact that there is an entire arc dedicated to the character poll and characters getting mad about where they are and trying to rank higher by taking out characters that are higher than them or, like, assimilating into, like, a super group so you get their popularity added to yours. It's such a funny, just, like, as a premise, it's really funny. The execution is flawless. It is comedy platinum. It transcends being comedy gold. And then you just got individual episodes or moments that make me laugh, like Hijikata's, "Here we go! That's a putty!" Every now and then I'll just watch that clip because it's amazing. Half the time when I say the word mayonnaise, I just say it's mayonnaise because that's how he fucking says it, and it makes me laugh every time. There's the Nausicaa parody episode about how the members of the Shinsengumi, like, wash their hands, but then they, like, adjust their flies. They're like, wait a second, we washed our hands, but then we touch our dicks. So now we're putting dick germs everywhere. And, like, partway through, as they were kind of showing, like, how nasty the place was, I was like, I don't know, this kind of looks like Nausicaa. Is that intentional? Or am I just seeing something that isn't there? And then by the end, you've got Hijikata, like, flying on the glider, and all of the fucking bugs are just Kondo's face. I'm like, no, this is a Nausicaa parody, and it's hilarious. You've got the smoking ban episode where Hijikata keeps trying to go to different planets just so he can smoke. I have to beat Brisa and avenge Grillin and use the ooey gooey balls. I feel like describing the joke is not nearly as funny as actually watching that joke play out. It fucking kills me. The Death Note parody is amazing. just remembered all the fucking Monster Hunter arc where everyone is a screwdriver and it's never explained. It's just stupid shit that happens because Gintama. There was something else I was about to bring up before I get to like any of the serious stuff. Oh, I don't remember what I was about to say. I haven't even brought up my favorite character yet, which is Zura. I think possibly my favorite joke in the entire show is... Oh, I remember what I was about to say. I'm putting some pins in. Just some of my favorite jokes. The Donald Zurump joke from near the end of the show is amazing. There is an episode that is this like genuinely serious episode about... I think it's Umibozu. It's like Kagura's dad liberating this planet, and by the end it turns out the entire episode is a commercial for a hair growth product, and like the entire thing was like, this is this like surprisingly really good and emotional episode. Like I haven't even seen the Odd Jobs crew, what the hell? And the ending made me laugh so hard, and I told my friend about it. He's like, okay, I'm not gonna go into detail, but there is a joke later, Tom and Jerry. If you liked this episode and that joke, you are gonna love the Tom and Jerry joke. As much as I might say the Donald Zurump joke is my favorite in the show, because it takes a running gag that I love and just perfects it, the Tom and Jerry scene, it is the perfect distillation of Gintama. As funny as Gintama is, as irreverent as Gintama is, there's literally a scene where Gintoki and Hijikata are snowboarding on the Shogun and the head of the Shinsengumi, respectively. As goofy and insane and funny as this show is, it can actually get really emotionally poignant. The best comparison I think I've ever made is saying that Gintama is Firefly. Just like Firefly, it is a show about a crew that just kind of works odd jobs and doing whatever they can after a war, after like a failed rebellion, with the main character, the head of this crew, being like a high-ranking member of that rebellion. And is someone who cares a lot more than they let on. And is also someone who is fiercely protective and loyal to their crew. In Firefly, my favorite scene is when Mal is talking to Simon. I feel like I talked about this recently. After the Big Damn Heroes episode, or after that scene, he was like, hey, why did you save me and my sister? You're on my crew. No. Be honest with me. We're a burden. We're like, you and I never agree. Me and my sister are, like, my sister is a burden. Why did you come back and save us? Because you're on my crew. Why are we still talking about this? That scene in Gintama is, I don't remember the arc. I think it was... No, I'm really blanking hard. I think it's like those asshole aliens that are fought at the end of season 1. Like, one comes back and is doing shit. Anyways, what's important is Gintoki gives this, like, speech where he's talking about the things he needs to protect. And he's talking about his crew. And it's a really good moment. Because as much as Gintoki is Gintoki, he loves those two knuckleheads. They mean everything to him. And that moment is beautiful. The Tom and Jerry scene is the perfect distillation of everything Gintama is. Because it's really emotional and this really tragic, beautiful story. And then it becomes the funniest thing you've ever heard in your life. It's perfect. It is comedy platinum. I will be honest, the reason Gintama is not higher on my list is because the last few serious arcs I wasn't crazy about. It's not like I hated them. Like, I liked the Silver Soul arc. I liked the... I don't remember what it was called, but like the arc with Kamui and like really getting the family business settled there. I liked them. I just really hated the main antagonist. Once like, here's the main villain. Here's like, now we've got our threat and this is what he does and all that shit. I really just didn't get invested in that character at all. And I went like, man, you've kind of tanked my opinion of the show. And by that, I mean, like, this went from like a 10 out of 10 to like a 9. If I'm being really mean, to like an 8. But I'm like, I don't think so. I wouldn't go that low. But it's like, man, this killed for a lot of what I was really enjoying about Gintama. And then as it goes on, it becomes a much more serious show than a funny show. And I remember the way I described it to Clay. I was like, you know, we do a thing like every couple of weeks where we have a steak. And I like steak night. I like steaks, and Clay makes very good steaks. When you have a steak, every now and then, it's nice. And you can really just savor the taste, the texture, the fat, and all that good shit. If I were eating steak every night, I would eventually get sick of it. It becomes a bit too much. And I feel like the serious arcs in Gintama are like steak. Every now and then, they're really good, because there's some really good ones. I love the Shogun Assassination arc. Yoshiwara in Flames, I think, is my favorite serious arc. And a lot of that is the scene where Kagura is going full Yato. Is it Yato or Yamato? I think it's Yato. Is one of my favorite moments in the entire show. And I think it's like over the course of a couple episodes, but just the pure bloodlust on Kagura's face is really memorable to me. But when it's serious arc after serious arc after serious arc at the end, and I don't even like the main antagonist, it's like I'm having steak every night. But it's a well-done steak, which is making it even less enjoyable. So, that is not to talk shit on any of the other stuff I love about Gintama. It's here for a reason, but I feel like that's why it's not as high as it could be otherwise. It's already been an hour, and I still have like 7 more alternates to talk about. So, what do you know? Part 1 of the video is going to be at least 2 parts. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop here, and then I will probably immediately resume and go ahead and talk about the rest of my alternates.